Okay, guys, welcome to Bambuddha Boost this morning. We're super lucky to have Amie Morris with us. Amie isn't just a brilliant producer. She's head of media at Bondi Radio. She's also a friend of mine. And unfortunately, was one of the first people to get the COVID virus in Australia. So had a little bit of a rough time a little while ago, a few weeks ago, since she's been better. So she's also an excellent producer, and she can help you build your brand in a way like no other. So she's going to give us loads of tips today, and she's going to share a little bit of knowledge about her experience and what she actually went through that period with COVID. So you can ask any questions. She's a right friendly Yorkshire lass, and she's totally open for a good chat. So I'm going to do what I do best, and I'm going to bugger off, and then I'm going to leave you with Amie.
Good morning, everyone, and hope you can hear me all right. Please make sure you interact and stuff like Anna said. I'm pretty friendly. We're pretty friendly up north, but I do live in Sydney now. I've been here for 9 years, and yeah, I did unfortunately have the coronavirus. I was one of the first in Australia to get it. And that was at the very end of February. It was before even social distancing went in place. And I was pretty sick for about 3 weeks with the symptoms, and then did end up in hospital at one point, which was a bit scary. But fortunately, I'm much better now, and just getting my hang, like everybody else, of this whole working at home, trying to do what I do best, whilst being self-isolated and homeschooling and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that feel exactly the same as me. So let me tell you first of all a little bit about myself, my background, and what I thought I could share with you guys today. So if I can, how do I get this to move on? There we go. So as Anna said, I am the head of media at Bondi Radio. I joined them about 3 years ago, actually when someone interviewed me on there, and I was like, it's the first time in my career in media that I've done radio, and I absolutely loved it. It's one of the best things I've done in my working career. Just so much fun, great team. And so what I do is I'm in charge of all the visual aspects of Bondi Radio, including branding, designing, video, content creation, and all of that kind of stuff. So what I'm here to talk to you about today is actually from my other company, which is Soapbox Studios, where I do a lot of educational stuff. I've worked in pretty much every university in Australia, and I teach basic human communication, but how that translates into the digital market. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and how important it is to get that right during this time, so that as a leader, people can still follow you, trust you, believe in you and what you're doing, during this bizarre situation that we're living in right now. So my background, this is me, a very young me. I actually weirdly started as a special effects makeup artist. So straight after university, I after some travel, I went and trained to do special effects. So I worked in TV and film. I was the one behind the cameras when someone had a bullet wound, and that I was pumping blood and the blood squirting out and stuff like that. That was me. And that got me into the media industry, and I started to realize how if I kept going and skilling myself up, I could really get somewhere where I wanted to go, which I knew involved an essence of me being in front of the camera as well. And the reason is because when it comes to communication, it's something that I can do very well. And I really enjoy it. So I actually started that way, moved more into TV production, and then back in 2005, that was my first presenting gig. I actually did a segment for the Sun newspaper. They just started to do online stuff, and I went to the MTV Music Awards, and that kind of got me into stuff. So the photo that you see there was a breakfast show in the UK. If there's any Brits out there, it's called The Right Stuff. It's actually ended now. But that went on for 20 years, that show. And I co-presented on that breakfast show for a couple of years before I came out to Australia. and I've been in Australia now for 9 years. So anyway, that's a bit about the background. So it kind of combines the two, being a producer and a presenter. And then since being in Australia, I became a media coach. So as I mentioned before, I've taught in pretty much every university. I've done sessions with politicians, with famous people, with CEOs, with students, with you name it. And I've taught them. I've taught thousands of people over the last 10 years how to communicate well, especially when it comes to doing it on camera. So anywho, then I became a business owner. So I co-own Bondi Radio, but I own Soapbox Studios as well. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. With Soapbox Studios, along with the media training, I do also work with clients to do brand development, messaging and design, and also understanding digital storytelling and content creation. So not only do I teach you, which I'm going to share a little bit with you guys today, about communicating well on camera yourself, but how do you do that through your messages, the messages you put out there, the design? Does it talk to your brand? Does it give the essence of the message you're trying to get across? Digital storytelling is interesting because it's how do you build up this narrative about who you are or who your brand is or where you're going. And so there's three separate elements really to what I do with my clients on a one-on-one, but also this is the kind of stuff that I do for some Bondi Radio clients too. So just moving on, I have to click that there, still getting the hang of it with the old technology. So this is really what I thought would be useful for you guys to know a little bit about today. So it's a bit of a take home. And whilst I'm going through that, I can see the chat here. So if anyone does want to ask me anything, please do. I'm more than happy to share as much expertise as I can, because I know how important this period of time is to get this kind of stuff right. So I want to break down with you really what communication is, exactly what that is. As a human being, it is very different to how we communicate on camera or in the digital space. So we're going to look at the two and how it differs. Why do you need to learn to communicate well? What benefit does it give you? Then we're going to look at effective communication on camera, which I know at this point, often a lot of people, when I'm doing this in a workshop, will start freaking out because they're like, oh, you know, I don't want to go on camera and I hate myself on camera. And do I really sound like that? Do I look like that? So we're really going to break that down and just reassure you that everyone feels the same. Okay, everybody feels the same when they do this, and they all have, even the most well-known people that I've taught have that feeling. So that's why I'm going to leave you at the end really with 5 top tips, my top tips that I think will kind of guide you through this Corona period, and hopefully you'll have a nice little takeaway that you can use. So when it comes down to the crunch, it's really about keeping it real. And what I mean by that is just being completely authentic, being authentic with everything that you say. And you can only really do that when you connect to yourself. And I know that's a bit cliche and everyone's kind of uses that term, but it really is what it's about. People like people. People connect to people. And we all have this innate quality within us to be able to know when someone's lying. So we can spot it a mile away, even when they're on camera. It doesn't change anything because of the way that the primal part of the brain works. Okay, so we're going right back to cavemen here, and the things that we had to pick up for survival. So it really taps into that part of the brain, and we can spot if someone's not telling us the truth, because back in the day, if someone was lying to you, they were going to probably hit you over the head and then run off with your cave wife. So we had to judge really quickly, is this friend or foe? And it happens, as you probably know, in a minuscule of a second. They say within 7 seconds, we've kind of, that's it, that's your final decision, first impression made. I think it's before that. But what is it about how we communicate, when you break it down, that helps us to come to that conclusion and make those choices about whether this person's safe or not. So there is a guy, whether, you know, a lot of people know about this, some people don't. Albert Meribane, he's a professor of psychology. He did a massive study when it came to human communication, and he kind of broke it down into 3 main parts of human communication, and it basically is broken down into this. Okay, so you've got a big chunk of importance with a small chunk that often people freak out about. But it's basically broken down into your body language, your tone of voice, and the actual content, so the words that we use, okay? So when you align those 3 things, that's when you get perfect communication. But for everyone out there, if you could just type in there, which do you think out of those 3 is the most important, that biggest chunk there, that 55%, when we communicate to each other like this, which do you think is the most important part? Is it body language? So how we express ourselves. That's a big umbrella, actually. Body language is obviously how you move your body. It's your facial expressions, where you look. Which do you think is the most important part? Body language, tone of voice, or content, the actual words that we're saying? Okay, so we've got Esther saying body language, okay? We've got tone of voice, all important as each other, body language. Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, this is what I always find interesting. I actually love this part when I do this. So yeah, actually body language is the most important part when you communicate. So the second most important part is it tone of voice. And when I say tone of voice, it's obviously the inflections, the tone, how, whether we're loud or whether we're quiet, like all of those things that we can actually control. That's your tone of voice. And then the content is these words, these actual words that I'm saying. And as someone said before, yes, they're all important, but which is the next one, do you think? The 38%. Tone of voice is the second, and content is the last. Okay, so that's from Selena. Thank you. Anybody else? Nora thinks tone of voice. Okay, anybody else? So we've got Anna, she says tone of voice. Yeah, you're right. So tone of voice is 38%. Oh, hang on, let me go back. And the actual words that you say is 7%. Now, when this is broken down, you've got to remember that it's not saying that the other 2 things are not important, because they are. Obviously, me doing this session today, if I didn't know what I was talking about, you're not going to believe me or take anything away. Okay, so the content, the 7%, is still really important, as is my tone of voice, right? If I was to sat here talking like this the whole time and it was just completely monotone, then you're not going to take away the message the same way, even though the words are the same and my body language is the same and I'm smiling the same. The tone of voice is still really important. The emphasis that I put on certain words helps me to communicate that to you, and that helps you to take away that information. So ideally, what we need to do is have these all aligned. Okay, so we need the body language to express. For example, like, it's hard for me to do this when I'm wrapped up in a warm blanket because I'm freezing. So if you know, this whole session, I was sat with my arms like this, if you can see, so folded, right? If someone's got their arms folded, just as one example, one very small example, how does that make you feel as a human being? Just throw some words at me. If someone's got their arms folded and closed like this, how does it make you feel as the person on the receiving end? Nora's put blocked, defensive, cut off, like they don't like me. Absolutely, they're not open completely. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. So these send messages to the person that we're talking to, whether, you know, often people who are nervous, people who are, you know, a bit scared to put themselves out there will stand like that. And it does give off that I'm closed, I'm protecting myself. That's how they feel internally. But externally, you will receive that as, well, don't they like me? Are they trying to cut me off? What are they thinking? And it immediately stops down that communication, which is why body language is so important when we're doing this. So important. Whether you're on camera or talking to someone, it's really important to be aware of the body language, because if your body language is out, then they'll go on the body language more than anything else. So even if what you're saying is correct, even if the tone of voice is excited, they believe the biggest percent. They will believe that. So if you're nervous or if you're scared, if you are trying to hide something, people will know about it. So we need to work on your body language. That's the biggest thing. So we're just going to do a little experiment, and I'd like you all just stick with me. All right. Now, some of you may or may not have watched this TED Talk, but Anne Cuddy is an excellent TED Talk. I would highly recommend her. She did this her own experiment actually when she was coming up with this study, and basically she took a whole load of people and she put them in a interview scenario, and half the room she took to one side and asked them to do a certain posture, and the other side did a different posture. Power poses, as they call them. You've probably heard of that. And she sent them into an interview scenario where the interviewers didn't know either. Okay, so we're gonna do it together. What I would like you to do is just get in a position to start off with where you are sitting as if you were in the waiting room waiting to go into an interview. Okay, so you're sitting here and imagine you curl your shoulders right over and almost look down as if you're looking at your mobile phone, almost like you would do in a doctor's surgery, but we often do it too when we're waiting for an interview or something like that without even thinking about it. So what they found is if you do this and you just sit for a minute and just think about how you actually feel in your body. So I'll just be quiet for 1 second. Like, how does this energetically make you feel? And I want you to really curl your shoulders forward. So like curl, put your hands down, head down, okay? Does it make you feel happy, energetic? Does it make you feel a bit tired, relaxed? How does it make you feel? So a little small, close down. That's right. Okay, now I'm just gonna put my laptop down for a second. Now, what I would like you to do, and this is where I have to take my big blanket off, is I would like you to stand, backache. I want you to stand up with your legs apart like this, okay? Yeah, so get out of your chair, and I want, instead of your shoulders like that, I want you to curl them right back, almost as if you were going, like touch your shoulder, like your shoulder blades were gonna touch, okay? I'm sorry, this is not like the most amazing position for me to be doing this. So stand up straight, shoulders right back like this with your arms out, okay? Now, I want you to almost tighten up the top part of your leg as if you're pulling your kneecaps up towards you, okay? So tighten that, kneecaps up, arms out, shoulders back, okay? Head up. And I want you to just stand here for a second and then think about how your body feels. Does it feel energetic, alive? Do you feel tired, relaxed, closed down? How do you actually feel in your body when you go like this? Okay? Powerful. Yes, absolutely. Excellent. Aligned, worshiping the sun, amazing. Energized, powerful, absolutely. Yay, awesome. Right, exactly. So what I've just talked you through is basically 2 different hormones in your body, all right? One is cortisol that you've just released when you go like that, which is actually a stress hormone. But when we go like that and we go into this power pose, it releases testosterone, even for women, and it makes that fight or flight. That's why, funnily enough, when you see 2 guys who are just about to have a fight, they stick their chest out and go, what, yeah, what? Because it releases adrenaline and testosterone, and it makes you sharp, alert, and ready to go. So through that experiment, what she found is every single person who did that power pose got the job. Every single person who went like that didn't get the job, and that's the truth. So that is just a little tip that I want you to practice before you ever get on camera or do any kind of delivery. Give yourself a little power pose. It really, really helps. All right. Now, when it comes to actually then talking to your audience now as a leader, think about who you are, think about who your audience is, and what do you want them to feel? What's their takeaway from you? What are you getting them to really open their minds about? And then, because I think we are running slowly out of time from what Anna said, I want to relay, how do we do this when we're actually talking on camera? Because obviously that's a very different aspect, because we're not getting, like me now, I know that you're talking to me, but you are not communicating with me face to face, okay? And so the problem is that I'm not getting the feedback as a human being. I'm just looking at a camera, which can be really hard, okay? So these are the things I want you to think about. And this is what I do with my clients, and this is how we'll just wrap it up. Breathe, okay? Now, when we're anxious, we rush and we don't breathe. So breathing and grounding yourself before you do anything on camera really helps. Again, with the power pose, it really helps. Look directly down the lens. I know I've been looking off here at the moment while I'm just managing all this PowerPoint, but if you are doing a piece to camera, so an actual piece, so if I said it was going to broadcast, hi, I'm Amy, I'm from Bondi Radio, please tune in, thanks for listening. I need to look right down the lens so my audience feel like I'm talking directly to them, and that's how they receive the message. If I do a piece to camera and I'm talking and looking at myself all the time, people won't receive the message properly, okay? So looking down the lens is really important. When you're doing a Zoom like this or something like a webinar, it's okay to look around. People expect that, they're okay with that, but not when you're doing a piece to camera. Now, the biggest thing to try to do is make friends with the camera. Don't be scared of it, okay? Just talk to it like you're having a conversation, like what I'm doing now. You know, people, they can feel the energy through the lens, as you're probably doing with me right now. So just make friends with the camera, do as much as practice as you can. Talk on camera, film it, play it back and watch yourself. It's a great tool, it really is. Now, when you're editing something, the one thing I really want you to remember is we use a thing in TV called up on 3. And it basically means before you start something, before you press record and give yourself 3 seconds before you talk. Because when you edit, you really need that start at the beginning, but also at the end. Okay, so thanks for watching, goodbye. And then end, okay? Because if you end it straight away, you won't give yourself enough time to be able to edit it and it looks weird, all right? And the very last one is it's only a mistake if you make it as a mistake. So if you're doing a piece to camera and it needs to go out and it needs to go out quickly, don't trip over and say, oh, sorry, or anything like that, because you've made it a mistake. Just pick it up and keep going as you would do in real life. Everyone forgives that, and it's okay, and it's easy then to edit after. So it's only really a mistake if you make it one. Okay? So then I was going to share some practical things with you, but maybe we'll do another session, or you can touch base with me after this session where we talk about framing, lighting, what cameras to use, how to practically set things up when you do this kind of thing. And then I really would want you to do some practice. So actually getting you on camera and doing some practice sessions with you and giving you some feedback, that would be cool. So this is how you can get in touch with me. Obviously you can listen bondiradio.com.au, that's live every day. I do the breakfast show on there from 7:30 till 9:30. Or you can visit my website, bearing in mind that that is under construction right now. And so currently has all the youth work that I do. That's a whole different story. But I also do a lot of youth workshops. So at the moment, that has all that information on and none of this digital education that I teach. So just bear that in mind. So Anna, my love, I just want to say thank you so much for having me this morning. It's been a pleasure, and thanks so much for everyone getting involved. It's so good to do this kind of thing when people actually respond, because then you're getting that feedback. So that's great.
Thank you so much, Amy. That was super helpful. And I think, you know, there's definitely scope for us to have maybe a session with you that's a bit more extended for our members to jump in on and learn a little bit more around how they can speak to the camera, because it is nerve-wracking and it does make you feel weird and you don't know how to deal with it to start with. But also, you know, people understanding who you are and, you know, and seeing what you're all about. It's all part of people trusting you, isn't it? So thank you so much for your time today. Has anybody got any quick questions before we end the show today?
Oh, thanks guys for all these
events. Everyone.
Oh, that's lovely.
So maybe we can give you a task this week to do a little bit of filming. Film yourself and watch yourself back, and maybe send it to a few people to get their thoughts or feedback or opinions on, you know, how you're coming across and what kind of message they're picking up from what it is that you're saying. But we're really lucky to have you, Amie, and we're really glad that you're feeling better and that you did get a big juicy boost of kindness from all the people that love you when you were unwell. So it won't be the last we see of Amie, and we're really glad to have you on the journey with us. Next week, we're actually touching upon in a bit more detail about the actual logistics of the photography and the filming with Zarina Robertson, who's one of the best photographers of inspirational speakers here in Australia. So that could touch nicely on next week. Tomorrow we've got Dimity Podger, one of our Game Changer members, and she's going to be talking about using this time to embed even more purpose into your teams and looking at that organizational structure and how we can start, you know, growing and scaling that over this time. Lots of good stuff, as well as Oksana on Wednesday, who's going to be telling us a little bit about her background in Russia growing up and how we should be very grateful right now for what we do have access to in this country. And she's launching a great campaign called Little Things Matter, which she'll tell you about. And then, of course, Esther, who's been at nearly every single one of these calls that we've done since we started. So Esther's going to be sharing a little stuff around building your core resilience. So it's a bit of girl power this week, but, you know, why not? So we love you lots, Amie, and thank you for everything.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Speak soon. See you tomorrow.